folks, Rachel here from Beads by Verchiel, and this week I'm going to be launching my new hedgehog kit called Cyril. So here he is. Do give me a thumbs up, do pop me a note in the comments as well so I know you're present with me. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to introduce you, if you're new to it, to bead embroidery. If you already do bead embroidery, then hopefully I might be able to give you either some new inspiration or perhaps some new tips along the way as well. Now, I'll talk you through what's in the kit and I'm going to demonstrate as much as I can. I'm really proud of Emily, my daughter. She's 19, she's doing an apprenticeship in an architect's firm. She really is a talented artist, and I was so chuffed because she has done all the artwork for this one. She's done artwork for others as well, but obviously one thing at a time. So this is the brown kit, and they are actually the same size, but would you believe, where I've actually done a brick stitch edging, it kind of makes it look a bit bigger, doesn't it? I'm also going to do the gold as well. Right, so let's show you what's in the kit. So obviously the tutorial tonight, I thought what I'd do is I'd highlight the bits that perhaps you might need a little bit of extra guidance on as well. This is the kit, and what I've done is I've actually split it into two parts. But what we've got is we've got 6 A4 written pages, which also refers to 6 pages of photographs. So I've kept them separately so that you can easily refer to the photographs. And what I'd recommend is that this little section here, so basically I've coded all of the seed beads, so I'll say add 4A, and an A bead is a Toho size 11, for example. So it's all on your packs, but what I'd recommend is that you perhaps photocopy that element when you get the kit so that you can actually refer quickly back to it. So it's suitable for beginners, providing you can thread a needle, you're fine. And from feedback from others, you don't have to love sewing to do this. Okay, and I put my hands up, I'm not an embroidery specialist. Bead embroidery is quite different to embroidery. Right, so in here you have everything. The only thing you're gonna need is some glue for the backing. Now, I would recommend E6000, but I have tried a glue gun, and I would test it on a little patch of the backing to make sure it works. That's the only other thing you need to buy. And what you've got in there, like I say, is everything apart from the glue. So you've got the cute little hedgehog printed, you've got the faux backing, you've got a brooch back. You can always put him in a frame and make a picture. You've also got a size 10 beading needle. So you've got the thread. So you've got a gold thread in there. You've got enough to make the actual project. You've got all the seed beads to make it. So you've got size 15s. 15s are the smallest ones. You've got size 10s and 11s. For those of you that don't work with seed beads, the higher the number, the smaller the bead. 4 different coloured size 10s and 11s. You've got 3 different coloured size 15s. You've got the nose bead, and finally you've got the 3mm crystals. So all of that, and it's not a digitalised pattern. If you're anything like me, I'm like my books. I like it concrete. I like it in my hands. I like to see it. I can't work off of computers easily with patterns. So that is all in there. So it's all the printed version. Now the base that I'm working on is like an interfacing, and I've printed the picture on there. There we go. First things first, if I turn him round, we are going to do the outline. So we're starting at the base of the feet and we're working around. So I want to give you some top tips along the way. Now, this is Specialist beading thread. It's a size 10 beading needle. Now, first of all, I just keep looking up. I'm going to start just above his foot. So you come up from the back of the foundation. I've tied a triple knot at the end. Make sure you give enough space for the beads to be worked around the foot on the bottom. Now what I'm going to show you is the very basics which you'll be using throughout the design. Now these seed beads here, I tend to go by touch, so I get the tip, and a beading mat is a must really. And if you haven't got a beading mat, then use a tea towel. So I've added 4 beads on, so unless I mention otherwise, work with 4 beads at a time. Lay those 4 beads along the printed stomach line, and where the last one ends, take a nosedive down with your needle and go to the back. So he's all lined up with those 4 seed beads. Now I'm going to turn over to the back. So that's my first stitch there where the knot is. This is called back stitching. So I'm going to pop my needle through the hole. I'm coming up at the bottom, and that brings me right out at the start of those 4 seed beads. We're at the bottom of those 4 beads, and I'm going to push my needle back through those 4 beads again. That's what we call reinforcing. So we've just done back stitch and reinforcing, and that's the sort of terms that I'll be referring to throughout. Sorry for my fingers in the way. Right. Now, what we're going to do next is add another 4 seed beads onto there. Let that drop so that they sit right next to the next 4. Okay, so I tend to hold the thread under my thumb, take a nosedive after the last seed bead, and now again we're going to back stitch. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to go through the last hole that I made. That will bring me out at the bottom of the group of 4 I have just added. Okay, so I am going to carry on again, take a nosedive down the back, turn over at the back. And what I want to do is I want to carry on up to the chin area before we move on to the next bit, because I want to actually show you how you reposition your needle, how you get around curves, and then I want to look at the spikes. So I've got inner spikes and outer spikes. So add in 4. And we're getting close to just under the chin area there. Nosedive down. Is there anybody that's new to this that's thinking, oh, I might give that a go? Back stitch. Now we're getting close to the chin area, and when you get close to corners, it's always better to work in a smaller amount of seed beads, and what that does is it allows you to get a more distinctive curve. So I'm just going to add 2 beads to take me up to the chin area. Take a nosedive down. Now you can back stitch that, which is probably a good idea just in case you undo it. Now, I refer to repositioning of the needle. We're going to go back down again. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Now, if we just did a curve all the way around, that wouldn't get such a nice definition. So I'm going to reposition the needle so that it comes out just about 1 millimetre away from the last hole. And then we're going to carry on. Just making sure I'm still on camera there. And I'm going to show you how we do the nose bead as well. Take a nose dive down the back. Go through those. And I think we'll just add 2 in that little bit. And then I'm going to show you how we do this curve around the nose. So I'll just reinforce that with the Now, the nose bead is a really tiny little 2 millimetre pink pearl. So we're going to reposition your needle. To be honest, it doesn't matter too much where you put it. I'm going to put it just above the last bead. I'm going to add that on. You do need to give it a gentle bit of persuasion. Lay it across the nose area so it sits inside of the circle, and then stitch the other side of the circle. Now, it's always a good idea to reinforce that, and reinforce, like I said, means you're going to go back through the same, what we call thread path, as we did before. We're going to reposition our needle again, so go down. And I think it's really important, the repositioning and the next little bit, because it's what gives it that extra little bit. Now I'm repositioning just by the side of the nose. Now in the notes, I think I suggest that you use between 2 to 3 beads around the curve. So use your 2 to 3 beads and follow the curve. But we're going to do something else as well. Can you see that just creates kind of a straight line? So I am going to just move that to the side so that you can see what I'm doing. So between, that should be around beads 2 and 3. I'm bringing my needle at one side and I'm going over those beads and threading it through the same hole. And what that does is that stitches it down and gives it the curve. So you've just put a little stitch going across. Now there is a term for that embroidery, but couching, that's what I think they call it. So I am just carrying on around this area. Now I think I'm going to switch to my other one and show you how to get definition around the spikes. But hopefully, before I do that, I just want to show you about reinforcing. So there's little staggered bits in there where you've actually, what am I trying to say? Where you've actually sewn in groups of 4. Now, to reinforce that, it doesn't matter if you stretch across some of the thread bars at the back if you want to reposition your needle, or you can just go under one of the bars to just reposition your needle a little bit if you need to. And then I would, so this is another way of reinforcing, is going all the way through the beads you've worked. So push your needle through. Not only does it give it strength, and also it helps them to lie flat or to lie a little bit more in unison. So that's what we call reinforcing. So the whole sort of pattern initially is doing the outlines on the outer spikes, and then we fill in. So the next bit I'm going to show you, I'm going to jump across a little bit and actually show you how you can get some of these different harsh sort of spikes around here. So let's just bank that to the side. So I've actually done some of the spikes already. This next little bit is very much repositioning. So you can see where I'm coming out of. I've just moved the beads to one side. I'm repositioning my needle to the top of that spike, ready to start the next bit. Okay. What I would say is, if you've got a little bit where 5 beads fit rather than 4, whilst I'd normally say work with 4, you know, I would say if, like for example in this one, 5 beads would make the whole thing fit. So I'm just going to go with 5 beads on this. You can always do one of the couch over stitches that I showed you a moment ago. If it doesn't sit right, I'll just show you how to do that again. So to couch it down, I'd go over one side and down the other. Use the same hole and just let that stitch go the other side. Then you can go back and reinforce it if you want to. So I'm going to go all the way down, and I'm going to show you how we switch to the outer beads as well. Right, so I'm repositioning on the inner one there. And once I finish the outline on this, I'd really like to show you some of the filling in, which is why we've got a combination of the really tiny beads. You've got to bear in mind that everybody's technique is going to be slightly different. So obviously in the notes, I'm giving you as much guidance down to the last bead as I can. But there might be occasions where you just need to vary that to suit your own sort of style and technique. Now all the terminology, I've got a little explanation of terms as well, like reinforcing, back stitching, repositioning your needle. That's 4. It might be in a slightly different order in your notes. I've tried to let everything flow as easy as possible for you. But I think once you do this, once you start it, this is such a relaxing thing to do. And it's really is one of my favourite things with jewellery making, if I'm honest. Okay, the last one, whoops, going slightly off camera. Right, so we do that, we'd reinforce him, and then what we would do is we would then start round here. I'm not sure if I've got the legs next, but anyway, I'm going to show you, I'm pretty sure we do the back part. So we switch to the darker beads on this one. Don't put any beads on until you've repositioned the needle. Now, as this is quite sort of ziggy-zaggy around this little bit here, you might just want to do sort of a straight-ish line. So we've just switched into the other beads. I'm just starting off with 3 to begin with. Again, we're doing the back stitching. Let's do another 3. Right, I'm going to do another 3, but I'm going to do a bit of couching over the side so that I've got a little bit more of the spike character. Oops. So it's all good practice to see. So the couching is one side down to the other and anchor that down. Is I would fill in a little bead that sits on the side because you've got a little bit of a gap, and then reposition, ready to start again. So I'll just do the next 2 spikes and then I'm going to show you how to fill in the face and the body. But as you can see, you know, there's nothing really complex about the outline. It's just learning, back stitching, reinforcing and repositioning your needle. If you run out of thread at any point, again, that's pretty easy to do. I'll show you in a second how you actually tie off at the back. You start your fresh thread exactly the same way. I work in just over metre lengths with the thread, but you work with what you're comfortable with. You know, if you find that your thread's getting stuck to everything, getting stuck round every corner of every table, you know, you might want to have less. There we go. All right, so you get the gist of that. You're flowing that all around. All right, now we're going to fill in some of the face. I'm going to stick with this, so you just presume, right, that we've done our outlines, and I'm going to show you how you go about filling in this area here. This is a good thing to show you. So I'm here and I want to go over there. So I personally would go underneath the foundation and I would just keep wrapping my thread, putting my needle under the foundation a little bit to get myself over there. Because you're going to cover the back. Nobody's going to see the back. Or you can do it through the beads at the front. So I'm just going to show you the mouth, the eye and the eyebrow beads, okay? There's a very, very tiny little mark for the mouth, which literally is just size enough for a very small, lost my needle, small size 15 seed bead, which come up just at the mouth bit there. Stitch in your single size 15. And eyes, I'm going to stitch underneath the eye, add my little bead like so, and then stitch the other side. I'd reinforce that as well so that you go back over that at the back. And eyebrow, we're going to stitch along the line of the eyebrow. with three little size 15 seeds. So I'm just going to show you the start of filling in, and then before we finish I'm going to show you how you make the spikes on the back. So I love the fact that those small things give him his character. Now, as you can see, we've got beads going this way and beads going that way. You're totally guided in the instructions in the kit as to when you start taking, so to speak, a nosedive down. But I'm going to start you off and show you where we go. So we'd reposition the needle just above the nose. Start with your 4 as usual. Add that, and you're going to lay that so that it sits alongside those beads that you've just added. And back stitch. Oops. I'll just fill in that one line. Now, the notes give you guidance as to what beads you need in between the eyes and the eyebrows as well. So there's nothing technical that you need to worry about with this pattern. It's all set out and pre-done for you. I've added 5 on the last one. So you go right up to the head. And then what I would be inclined to do is reinforce every row you do. So reposition your needle like so, and then push your needle through, oops, sorry, a bit shaky there, all of your beads. And then when you take a nosedive down the back, nosedive, bad choice of words, wasn't it? And you're ready to start the next row. You would keep working across that way until you get about to here, and then we start going down. We do the outlines and the arms and the feet, but I guide you through everything. Okay, we are going to switch now, and I'm going to show you how we make these little spikes. Okay, now I've got it in gold. These are the foundation rows that I've done on the back, and I filled in some of the gaps with smaller beads, and the last row is a broken row on that one. But this is essential, these rows, for actually making the foundation to actually pop the spikes on. Okay. The frill bracelet that I recently launched on Hochanda uses a really similar technique. I thought I'd trim that. Obviously I didn't. So we actually start on the first row of the foundation we've just done. Sorry, I'm out of focus. And you go through the first bead. Got 2 seed beads, 1 crystal, 1 size 15. Gonna miss the 15 and go through the next 2 beads. Shimmy that along, add another bead. Then on the foundation, you're going to skip 2 beads and go through the next one. So this is a little bit jiggery pokery to get your needle in there. And you need to make sure that you pull that tight. Now, can you see that? That's a little bit clearer now, isn't it? And then I'll just do a couple more, so 2 size 10s, 1 crystal. So each row in the pattern is actually, there's a step-by-step guide as to how many spikes you have in each row, but you do miss out row 2 in the foundation. Alright, so I'm coming out of that one, skip 2, go through 1, okay, there we go. So if I just pull that tight, you can see how those form. So you actually do 3 rows of spikes. Now I hope that helps. You don't have to use it as a brooch. You can put it as an embellishment on a cushion. You could put it as an embellishment for a cushion for a child as well. You know, those like little reading cushions where the slots that they've got in the cushion. You could make it into a frame, and if you're an artist or you do paper crafts, you could have some lovely paper crafts in the back. So that's the kit. The edging, for the brick stitch edging that I've done on that, I've done a tutorial already on that, but to be honest, I really think it adds an extra dimension to it. I think that's it for now, but you know where I am. If you've got any questions, just ping me a message. Email or messenger is normally the best way of getting hold of me. Take care, everyone. Bye.